That always throws me up. Hey guys, Pete here. We're here to talk about Foundation. Foundation, we got to the mid-season. The first 5 episodes of season 3 are complete. So we're getting into the second half of the season, starting with the next one. So I just wanted to come on and check everybody's temperature, see where we're at. It seems like this season has been getting a better reception than the previous ones, and seems like there's a lot of excitement around what's going on. And so I had my friend Aaron, who joins us on the stream pretty often, come on. Maybe you should introduce yourself though, in case anybody is just coming here through Foundation and doesn't know who you are yet.
All right, hey guys, I'm Aaron. I am one of the hosts at baldmove.com. We cover a lot of television shows and a lot of movies. We're currently doing a lot of sci-fi right now. We're doing Alien Earth, which just started, Foundation, which we're in the middle of, and Strange New Worlds. And I also like to apologize. I'm the reason we're running late. I sent the back end link of Pete's chat here, and we're sitting there about to start, and suddenly
all of a sudden
Street start taking over his green room, and he's like, what's happening? I'm like, oh, that's me. I'm sorry. Anyway.
Yeah, people are just popping into the studio here.
Well, I updated the link. Let me make sure I did it in both places. I think the other link was good, but dang. Anyway,
it was a good icebreaker though. Definitely loosen us up a little bit.
But I'm glad to be talking science fiction once again with you, Pete.
Yeah, and you mentioned Alien Earth. That's getting ready to debut in just a little bit here. That's something I'm looking forward to too. And I was looking at the review of that, and I was thinking about this has to be like the peak of just insanely expensive sci-fi TV shows happening at the same time right now.
I wonder if we'll look back and see that this is like a high water mark, because we know that like one of the things that was a dispute on this show is the budget, and we've also had like half of the big budget movies have failed. It's been weird because, like, you know, Superman succeeded, Fantastic Four kind of disappointed. I wonder if we'll look back and, you know, there's going to be a little contraction where like $500 million television shows and $300 million movies just don't get made for a while because they're no longer profitable. I hope not, but
yeah, I mean, we could talk quite a bit about the strange things that have happened over the last 5 years, as far as the streaming wars and just throwing money all the way around, and this, having the strike and everything getting tightened up. But I mean, it is like this show is if nothing else, like the scope is insane. You know what I mean? Like it's really something. And like if you think back, like there just weren't TV shows that looked like this ever. So
even going back like pre-Game of Thrones, or certainly like pre-Lost, like there is a huge uptick in the quality and people spending money on television. Now you've got stuff, you had Expanse, Game of Thrones, all the Star Trek shows are $100 million operations now. And I've been in my free time watching old TNG, and let me tell you, you can see where the money's going, right?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, we used to just accept it. Yeah, it looks kind of corny and kind of whatever, right, but we like the idea, so we'll still watch it anyways. That's totally flipped around now. You know what I mean? Now it's almost like the spectacle is it really is on par with what you're expecting when you see features, rather than
people are saying I'm a little quiet. I gave myself a little audio. I don't know if you can mix it on your end, but I gave myself a little bit more juice.
Yeah, I can tell you turned it up. I cannot really balance in the studio,
Gotcha.
so
That's fine.
yeah, I think we
got
should
on the
be good.
soundboard if I can't mix match my partner here. Well, where do you want to start?
Well, I guess just general thoughts. What about season 3 is working for you? We're in a little. I guess we should preface a little bit. We're in a little bit of a weird spot because we both read the books. I was reading Robots a lot more because I was just working on a Demerzel. But I mean, we know what's going to happen. Generally speaking, there are a lot of mysteries around how they're going to incorporate or adapt certain things. But like right now, at least for me, it feels like they're as close as they've ever been to, connecting the dots in a way that like you can see what how they're using the source material and how they're going to what their thoughts were and what they're trying to accomplish. So yeah, we're not going to give spoilers here, but it kind of limits our ability to speculate. So
Right. So I'm kind of doing the mild, because here's the thing. I don't think I've ever done this before where I've read the source material, but it's been 30 years and I deliberately chose not to reread it. But
yeah,
it was like a work that really stood out. It was a lot of my first exposures to a lot of science fiction trips. A lot of stuff really stands out in my mind. And in the previous seasons, like I kind of knew a little bit. This is the first season where it's like as soon as the first episode came and I started hearing the names, I'm like, oh, I remember exactly how this went in the books, and I think it's going pretty much that way in the show. So unfortunately, I'm kind of in that boat with Jim where I kind of have to prompt him to speculate, not lead him, but let's just prompt him, But I honestly, I really like season 2. I really like season 1. I really like season 2. I felt like my only criticism was at the very end. I felt like you really can't have the Vault do a Deus Ex Machina again, And I think we even brought that up with Goyer, and he's like, "Yo, no, we're aware." But I thought last season was very good. This season, from what I can tell, just took off from there and kept going. Like I really like what they've done with the continued decline of the genetic dynasty. I really like what they've done with Foundation and how it's kind of calcified and turned into this kind of bureaucratic. They're trying to make another empire. They got a hereditary thing, the things that Seldon railed against. I think they're doing, again, it's not the books, but I think they're doing more than justice to what Asimov was trying to do, and updated things and made things a little bit more relatable. I think even though I know that the big thing was over the budget, I haven't seen a lot of evidence of budget cuts. The show is still beautiful and jaw-dropping.
yeah.
And I think all the new characters are engaging. Like I went from like hating the Mallows, Torin and Beta on sight. I'm like, oh my! I won't have to fucking watch YouTube influencers. But like by this next episode, I'm like, nope, I'm on board with these people. I am loving it. What do you think, Pete? Are you're pretty much the same, or do you have a few criticisms here or there?
I mean, some of the things with this show, like some of the things, I guess, from covering it through all 3 seasons is that there's certain things that I just sort of, have decided to accept. You know what I mean? They're not my, like, I feel like the show holds the audience hand way too often. They a lot of times, like what the story is telling and what you're seeing, like it all comes together, at least for me when I'm watching it closely. And then they'll just say a thing, or they'll show a clip from previous seasons to make sure you remember, you know what I mean? And it just like, to me, that stuff all works better when you don't, when you let people come to those conclusions themselves, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
but
hard to tell because It's also, I know, so it's like, is some of these things obvious because I have been kind of prodding Jim, and I will say that we just recorded the episode for I think this week's today. I don't think he doesn't seem like he is getting what the show is like. It's not obvious to him, is what I guess I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, there's certain things like, as far as like my all time favorite shows, like it's not in that fashion, you know what I mean? Like that style. But at the same time, starting in season 2, it started to get into that area. Like, I mean, because like I said, for me, sci-fi is like my comfort food. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I can forgive a ton of stuff. Like if you have a good sci-fi idea in there that'll stay stuck in my head, that I'll sort of like kick around for a while. Like I can let a lot of stuff go. You know what I mean? Like I can just be like, yeah, well, that it's expensive to make shit look like it's in the far future, or it's like, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, so, and because it's not the most popular and never has been, like, except in very rare cases, like a big money maker for people. So, like most of the stuff you sort of had to say, all right, well, they're taking a chance on it. Like if you think about The Expanse, I mean, that's probably the best sci-fi show, like as far as story, cast, everything together, like as a package, you know what I mean? It probably is, since it's complete and we can say that, you know what I mean? But like,
it still left stuff on the table. It still left the last trilogy on the table. But I agree. Like even as much nostalgia as I have for stuff like TNG and Deep Space Nine, Expanse stands head and shoulders above any science fiction series I've seen on television.
Yeah, and I think what the one of the main things I think I'm seeing here is that, they had a vision for what they were trying to do. That wasn't always clear early. Like in the first season, I think there was a lot of stuff that some people just didn't give them credit. They had a really difficult thing to try to do there, and I don't think they were as successful as they hoped it could be. You know what I mean? Like with a lot of stuff. But I think now that we're getting into where it's like where we're at right now, it feels like it's really hit its stride. They're connecting the dots back to a lot of those things that were introduced, you know what I mean, in the first season. And you're just sort of like, well, is that like, I remember Exo, the idea of Exo, like it seemed so random, like in that scene, based on the tone of what everything else that was happening. And you're like, will they ever go back to that? You don't know, because it's a brand new show. So you don't know how they tell the stories, their stories, you know what I mean? So like, will that come back up? Well, yeah, it did. It came back up here. And there's several other details like that, you know what I mean? And I don't know. I feel like that's the kind of stuff that really gives me confidence and makes it enjoyable for me at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot of hemming and hawing about, oh my gosh, they're getting into the Mentalics too early, or oh, they're too much Demerzel exposition. But honestly, like all of that stuff is why this season is working so well, because we just have the rhythm of the show. We know how the genetic dynasty works. We have we've seen lots of inside feelings that Demerzel's had about different situations and how loyal she's been and what it's cost her. I think that stuff is really paying off. And I keep coming back to a lot of times when Goyer blamed a lot of stuff in the first season on the pandemic, and looking back, a lot of that show just felt so much smaller, because Terminus is supposed to be this bustling spaceport, but there's only ever 5 people that you could ever see. It's like it felt like a Skyrim city, where it's like, wait, there's supposed to be like 10,000 people here, and I only see like 5 people down the main street. What the hell? Everything just looks so much better now. Can you imagine trying to film at the Galactic Senate or whatever, the The hell, what was that place called?
Clarion Station.
Clarion Station. You imagine trying to film that in a pandemic where you have this room full and everyone's standing 15 feet apart and there's like 15 people that represent the whole galaxy. The show just looks, I think, better because the strike's over and the pandemic's over, and that's the thing that if I was Goyer, would really get my goat, that I like pulled this show kicking and screaming into production under the worst conditions possible. And then when that finally gets over, and
far away from home and your family too. I mean,
and I finally get it to where this is the fun part, and they yank it from that. Ooh.
Yeah, that I was gonna say we should probably transition to that, because I saw in the comments here that some people were unaware that Goyer was leaving. I saw somewhere here. The question, David Goyer is leaving. It's like, yes, bro. He's been gone actually for a while. Yeah. He wasn't there. He wasn't there for the second half of this. Yeah. So one of the things I picked up listening to your podcast, I think it was 2 weeks ago, was that you did talk to him recently, and I thought you might be able to give a little bit of what you got from that. Because
conversation.
Because I've talked to him. I always dealt with him through his assistant at Apple TV though. So like, there's no way that I could reach out to him. So I wanted to tell him I was sorry to hear that, that happened, because it's a huge, I know from talking to him how invested he was in it. You know what I mean? Like he really, I'm sure anyone at that level is, you know what I mean? But like he was really trying to make this his thing, and
very generous with the community, tried to answer everybody's questions, even though I think some people, especially in the first season, are kind of pricks about the show. Because like I saw someone saying, the budget cuts, well, those only affected the last 2 episodes. It's hard to say because let me read, because I don't want to get anything wrong, and I want to look at his things. But he said this, that I'm quoting him, I oversaw the writing of the whole season of season 3. I was on set, show running and directing through half of the seasons. That's the first 5 episodes. I was originally directing the first 3 episodes. Ultimately, I decided to lead the show halfway through production. There's a lot of budget issues coming out of the strike. Apple and Skydance were trying to recoup some of their losses, and I didn't agree with the manner or approach in which they're attempting to cut things in the midstream. The time I left, I completed nearly all direction of episode 1 and I directed about half of episodes 2 and 3. I did not go for a shared credit because I wanted to allow the new guy that took over, then finish my episodes, to have the sole credit. And he says, seems like a nice guy, bear him no ill will, parenthetically. I wasn't involved in post-production beyond episode 1, and normally that was a process I had complete control over. I've heard anecdotally that a lot of nuance was cut out in my absence, but I don't know for sure, and I'm not planning on watching the remaining 9 episodes. So there were actually budget cuts that affected the shoot in the midstream, but the fact that he didn't oversee any of the post-production means there could be entire sequences that got cut or scaled back because they didn't want to do the effects necessary. I'm thinking, and it could be like for example, did we need to see the flying stampede going from the moon to the planet last season?
Yeah. No.
But aren't you glad you did see it? Like, that was a hell of a thing to see. That's when I was a kid, that's why I read science fiction for. Right. I remember an old Star Trek novel about genetically engineered Pegasus that could never fly on Earth because no one cared. They just wanted to make it look like a Pegasus, but it didn't have the bone structure to support it. So somehow the Enterprise ended up taking it to the moon, and in the moon, it can fly great because it's 1/10 the gravity and stuff like that. Like a real Pegasus, but it can only fly in the moon. That makes my neurons fire. So I don't know what we didn't get this season because Goyer wasn't there to fight for shit like that. Because he did fight for that scene.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I mean, that's my impression of. I know there's some other stuff going on with Skydance, like the main part of Skydance merging with, what is it, Paramount?
Oh yeah.
Is that the case? So, but like that's my like. So basically, the timeline of what happened is that they had the writers' room. They broke the season. They had all of the episodes and scripts together. They started production. Then the strike happened, so they went home, and it was during that period of time when they said, "Hey, we don't need you to come back." Right?
For season 2, you're saying
Halfway through season 3.
Oh, yes.
So he was there for like he basically
Was on set through episode 5.
yeah, and it's completely his vision, right? Like it started that way anyways. But then again, he didn't come back to film the second half. So to me that sounds like they got tired of him fighting for those things and whatever. And there was a point where it was an ultimatum or something, you know what I mean? Where he was like, well, if you don't want me to do this, then get someone else. And because of that pause, they had enough time to consider doing that and actually did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They called his bluff. But
I mean, I could be, yeah, that's completely speculation, but I mean, it's terrible. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I said, I can't imagine putting that. I mean, he was working on it for 6 years. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, 4 years before, like 3 years before it even like saw the light of day. So
yeah,
he describes it it's a bummer. So
do you think when he said I totally understand the him saying that I'm not going to watch the episodes, but do you think you'd be able to do that if it was you?
I'm the type of guy who would tell everybody I'm not watching the episodes,
but then go watch the episode.
With me about it, but I would absolutely go watch it. And I don't know what I would be, I don't know what I'd be hoping for, dude. Would I be hoping that like they followed my vision enough and like it's not exactly how I did it, but like it reads, or what I want them to like zig immediately so I can just wash my. I don't know, because that's
the dissonance, right? Like you want it to be the best that it can, but also you don't want to believe that they can do it without you either.
Right. Yeah. And I've listened to Dan Harmon talk about how he felt when Community got taken away from him. It's got to be a deeply personal thing. But yeah, I couldn't not watch it. I might, yeah, especially since I was there filming for half of it. I'd want to see, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve the Green Hand, for the just chipping in comment there. Eric says, why is he leaving the show? I mean, we think it's purely money related. That's what it could be. There could be, politics involved, something else behind the scenes, but that's not something that's come out as far as I know. But we do know that that Apple has tried to scale things back, and that Skydance is like, those are things that are, whether he said it or not, those are things that are out there in the public discourse.
And that's the other thing is, like, people have latched on to some things like, oh, it wasn't a business thing, it was he wanted to spend more time with his family, because he did cite that in his original letter that sent out in spring. But like, I think it's more of like, I do miss my family, but this is my dream job, and this is the job I signed up to do. But, if you're going to nickel and dime me and make me compromise and tell a story in a worse way, then it's not worth it. But like I said, it's the biggest bummer. I keep on bringing it back to The Walking Dead, because like that's what I keep thinking of. Like Frank Darabont's Walking Dead season 1 was such a different beast than the show ultimately became, and it all started there in season 2. And what sucks is, if this season's excellent, I can't relax and be like, well, next it's going to be fine, because Goyer wrote all these. And the other thing is, that's what I was going to say. He put out a statement. I saw this on Reddit,
on his website.
About that. That as far as he knows, the team that is in place now is not planning on using his outline or structure.
Yeah,
He said that's so that scares me.
For me, when I was reading that, it's what it was like. He was being completely civil, and then that was like his dig. You know what I mean? Like that. He was like, I can say one thing, and that's that was like where he chose to let his rage come out a little bit. You know what I mean? It was like
I do wonder.
I don't know that they're going to use any of that stuff. Basically, is what he said, right?
And that's the thing, is like, I don't think they're like in spite throwing it away. What I think this new guy is going to do is take David's outline and look at all the places where the money is and try to shrink those. So I don't think they're going to tell a different story just because of, they think that they can do it better. I think it's going to be to try to cut budget. And a lot of reason to people, because people have been asking, who's the new guy? I don't know what his name, I forget his name, but his biggest credit is season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead, which a lot of people consider a betrayal, because I guess the other showrunner had got that into a pretty good spot in the fans' minds by season 3, and then this guy came in and killed it. And I feel like he kind of has a reputation, and this is just my opinion. In my opinion, he's got the reputation of a guy that's brought in because he does things on time and under budget.
Yeah.
So
not exactly what you want for the century spanning epic tale.
Right. Go from Oscar nominated writer producer David Goyer to the guy who killed Fear the Walking Dead.
Like I saw some pretty pretty heated Reddit posts about it. Like I don't have an experience with Fear the Walking Dead, you know what I mean? Like I saw when it first debuted, like I can remember a few things about it, but I didn't follow it in any way. So I don't have any feelings about what that guy did or didn't do when he came in there. But at least a few people on the internet aren't happy about the development.
I can't say I'm enthused.
Claude Simeon has a question directed towards you, but I can help you out with this if you need. He says, Aaron, do you remember how many seasons Goyer said he had ideas for in success? Was it
I think he said 6 to 7. Like he always had a 4-season run that was going to take us kind of in this Mule-ish direction. And then that would probably be the end of, you could stop it there, but like, because Asimov kind of did, but then he came back and wrote more and started doing the connecting things that we can already see with the Demerzel and the robots. So I think he had at least 2 more. And if I understand what he was trying to adapt, they were going to be pretty banger seasons that were going to kind of bring the whole psychohistory thing full circle and answer a lot of questions that I remember having about the first and second foundation and how everything worked out. So like, but yeah, it's like he wanted to tell the story of the the kind of I guess the classic trilogy, but he had plans for 6 or 7. I think that's what he said to me. Am I frozen up? Are you frozen up? Chat, am I still here? Oh, okay. Okay. Oh no! I have assumed control of Pete's channel. Oh, I'm full screen now. I look, I was not brought on to do this. I'm not qualified to host a YouTube channel. I worry for Pete. He's over there in Vietnam. He's on the wrong side of the world from me. My mind is racing. I'm trying to entertain however many people are here. I don't even know how many people are here. Let's see. We're gonna keep this going. Scooter says he went to the cryo chamber. How many years of history did you just sit out in your cryo chamber, Pete?
Yeah, sorry about that. I was just talking too for a while. I'm not sure where I cut out.
I realized you're just sitting there like. And I'm
Yeah,
like, Pete? And then, but I was still alive. That was the wild part. I thought,
yeah, it was weird. It was weird for me that because I could in my camera I was still moving around and stuff like that, but then I saw you were frozen up, and I was like, wait a minute, what's happening here? But yeah, sorry, I guess that was my internet. It booted me out of the connection, but the stream is still okay. Like we're still
looks
on
like it,
YouTube at the time.
I
Yeah,
don't think it
okay.
ever dropped. Yeah.
All right. So just to go back to what we were talking about right before that happened, the way I understood it was that the full plan he had in his mind, if they gave him carte blanche to do whatever he wanted, was that he had 8 seasons. And, but then he had an off ramp at 6 and an off ramp at 4 built in.
Okay.
So whenever he pitched it, you know what I mean? So you figure like the 4-season thing would be the Mule story. It would end on the Mule. The 6th, we can't really say where we would think they would end, but you know what I mean? Like,
honestly, I might not have read the books that he was thinking of for 7 and 8. Because like I think I know the next phase where he would have an off ramp at 6, but 7, 8,
I've heard him say whenever he talked about 8, he was talking about doing like a lot of going back in time also though, like doing the robot wars and things like that, you know, where he would fill in the story completely, you know, like maybe even have some of the prequel books like actually adapt the prequel books instead of what we're seeing right now.
That's what I was wondering, because I know, like I said, I know that Asimov came and like kind of sort of retconned some things to, you know, late in his career, bring Foundation and Empire and robots together, and like I'm wondering, like, you know, because I know he revisited some of the backstories of certain people, including Harry and Demerzel, and but I'm not as up on what comes after the season 6 off ramp. So
yeah, I never really tried to, you know, figure it out, but I think that I don't know what this means as far as them only having, like, I think that there's a pretty good chance that 4 would be the last. And that
it sounds like Apple's trying to downsize a little bit. I just saw a chat asserted this. I haven't heard it, but Wheel of Time got canceled. It does seem like it's like these streaming channels, like, oh wow, we're spending some real money here. Maybe we need to tighten, and the numbers aren't there. Maybe we need to tighten the belt up a bit.
Yeah, you know, like over the last few years, the environment has changed a lot, like just the way that things are getting made and stuff like that. So it became a, you know, it got to be, it came along at the right time to be what it was, but I don't know that time still exists anymore. Like, I mean, of course, Apple is the biggest corporation in the world and they have enough money to keep doing it if they want to, but that, you know, they don't.
Yeah, but they're not an arts endowment. They're not doing. They're
and they're not the biggest corporation in the world because they do stuff like that.
Yeah, they're not doing this because they love science fiction and soccer coaches. They're doing it because they wanted to make money. So at the end of the day, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. And they can do. I think they're like seeing some of the stuff they did with more mid-sized things like Dark Matter. There's another one that they did that it's like not on the scale of Foundation or even Severance that got, and they're like, man, we could do like 5 of those shows.
Yeah.
And if 1 or 2 don't make it, and like, and it's just the same as if we do one and we get so much more content, and that, yeah, it's
people are calling out Murderbot down there, which is another.
Well, and there's why I don't think Goyer's too torn up, because he's show running that, and it's a huge success. That show's great.
Oh, he's not show running that; he's just a producer there.
Oh, right, he's executive producing. You're right. You're right.
That it's I can't think of the names of the 2 guys. It's a duo that is that show runs that. Weiss, is it? But anyways, I thought, like, since it is the mid-season, we can hit a couple of points that are like, try to do it spoilery.
Yeah, we're gonna be only talking through where tyrants spend eternity.
Yeah, through episode 5. Let's see here. I guess first of all, the big thing for this season is the Mule, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have to share my screen again because I got kicked out. So let's not do that. So the Mule is, you mentioned it just a bit ago about how he felt like Goyer felt like if he could get here, that would be the point where the story would break wide open.
Yeah.
How do you think that's going so far? Like, do you feel like it's funny reading a lot of the comments because there's people who know, there's people who don't know, like, the story going in, and there's some of the criticisms, I guess, are kind of funny because of the way that you imagine things will eventually play out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because Community's in an interesting place because season 1 it was like 50-50, supposed Asimov purists saying the show is a big fat dump versus 50% of people is like, it's fun and I like it. And then at season 2, I felt like that ratio, a lot of those, and by season 3, I feel like the original people who are just can't see anything other than the book form of Asimov are not in it so much. So like, it seems like the community is a bit more positive, and I also think they're being rewarded because it does feel like all these touches that we've seen. You mentioned Gaal not falling asleep in her hyperspace pod or whatever, and the full impacts of the genetic drift that the Cleons are experiencing, and now it's led to their reduced lifespans, and that's a plot point. Like all. A lot of the stuff that he was doing in the beginning wouldn't have even paid off. They'd have been open. Like, imagine if it got canceled after the second season or whatever. Like, I wonder what why Gaal never fell. I guess it's something of her being a Mentalic or something. But I think it's going well. I actually am glad that what's this guy's name? Pivu Andrusi is some kind of Norwegian
name. Yeah.
Thank you.
Pilu Asbeck.
I'm glad he's getting this role because his
Euron
character. Yeah, that was that could have been a great character if George would.
That's one of my favorite characters in the books. Like
even we're in
top
the middle
top 5 for sure.
We're in the middle of whatever the hell he's doing, and I'm so glad that he gets something that's kind of adjacent to this, but much better. Like he's still kind of a crazy pirate, right? That's the Mule's thing.
Yeah.
But he's chilling. There's something urbane about him. He looks like he looks like evil Ewan McGregor, and he's got something of that like kind of magnetism about him. I think he's a real upgrade from the Mule of last season.
Yeah, we didn't really get to see that guy do a lot, but I kind of agree with you. Like I feel like the direction they went with the character in Game of Thrones was over the top and annoying, and it wasn't really connected with the book character at all. You know what I mean? So that was even extra frustrating. So I think that I think that the guy can act. You know what I mean? So it's good to see him be able to show that a little bit of range in this similar type role, like he said.
And also, like, I want to try to have a stealth conversation with not spoilers, because I will just say that, and I haven't been able to say this all season because I don't have a spoiler section, but I really enjoy some of the touches they're doing with the Mule's costume. For example, I'll give a Game of Thrones example. Oh God, who was Dany's boyfriend and Marine? Dario Naharis.
Naharis, yeah.
In the book, that dude has got
blue hair,
gold beard, a blue mustache and hair, and like bells. Like he's got a gold tooth and like a hook nose. He looks like, when you read his description, he just sounds like a joke of a character.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to stand him off and adapt. And there's a lot of similarities. Like if you just Googled a Mule and Foundation, you see some of his cover art. Like there's no fucking way you could pull that off. But I feel like they've been incorporating certain bits of that, some of that outlandish stuff in more believable ways, and just putting it on different pieces of his costume. And I really dig that. It's a way to, you know, put Superman in spandex, right? But also know that like a guy wearing underwear over his pants is ridiculous. You have to figure out some way to smooth the comic doesn't work on the screen type of thing. And I've really enjoyed everything about the horror that the Mule is bringing. There's really scary kind of like Twilight Zone stuff that he pulls with people. And he seems like a very big bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to talk. Like when you were talking just now, I thought of like several questions I wanted to ask you, and I was like, I can't ask him that one. Can't ask him that one. You know what I mean? Like because of like, one of the things that I thought was interesting was the way that when they take the jump gate, and he tells him, you know, like he tells the guy that he's killing, basically, like, oh, you know, I'm not usually like this. And then, you know, he goes into the whole thing about the music soothing him and everything. And they're kind of getting into that on the other end now. But yeah, I think I agree with what you're saying. I think there are a lot of nods, you know, like whenever I thought of this is something that I've been thinking about for a long time. Like you said, you read this 30 years ago. I mean, that's probably around the same time I would have read that book the first time, I guess.
High school, junior high, right?
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
And you know, like the Mule was a surprise, you know what I mean? The whole thing was just, it was so different than the first part of the book. And it solved a problem that I didn't really understand going into that book, was that, yeah, the you know, the Salvor Hardin reveal in the first one was cool and everything else, you know, like, but how many times can you do that? You know what I mean? How many times can you say like, oh, but you know, the real thing is that the guy just has to figure out that he can't do anything. He just has to sit back and let the plan happen or whatever. You know what I mean? So it was, you know, it was a big surprise, but you know, it was also, it had a feeling to it that really wouldn't work on the TV show. And, you know, so when we look at this, you know, this sort of background image that of Magnifico here, like, that's not how I expected this part of the story to look. You know what I mean? The Visi Sonar concerts and things like that. It wasn't a nightclub. It wasn't like this kind of stuff. But I think that they also did it quite well, you know?
Yeah. Now, I even love the prop. I was kind of gushing about that on the podcast, where it's like, this prop looks amazing. And, you know, a little bit of a heads up, this week's episode, you'll get to see a real close view. If you're wanting to 3D print it, this is the episode to take note. And it's exquisite. It's like you said, it's nothing like I imagined. And I saw someone looked up the Mule's cover art and was like, holy hell. Yeah, like it's nothing like I imagined, but it's just such a cool rendition of, and something I feel is true to the spirit of what they were going with for the Mule.
And it just seems like this is like the show really where you can see how the show has hit its stride. You know what I mean? Like they've created a world, like it or hate it. You know what I mean? Like it exists within the, you know, within their framework for telling the story. And yeah, like it didn't feel that way in the first season. It started to feel like that last season. You know what I mean? But all of it, because you know, I've seen people saying like, why is season 3 so much better? I don't think it necessarily is just uniquely better. I think it's part of how TV works. You know, you build towards something and you get some familiarity. and it was funny because, you know, like Gaal has kind of always been the weak spot as far as main characters for me. You know what I mean? Like I want to like Gaal. I just don't, I can't lie and say that whenever it switches back and forth that I'm more engaged with what's going on with the Cleons and Demerzel than I am with what's been, you know, even, you know, like on Ignis with Harry there and everything else. Like Tellum was a cool character on a lot of ways. You know, what happened there was fine. It's just like, there was just like that imbalance of like, I wanted to see one part of the show a lot more. It's sort of like Yellow Jackets, the Yellow Jackets problem. You know what I mean? Like where you want to just hang out in the woods with the teenagers and the adults, you know, they're fine in a vacuum somewhere else. But like, I don't enjoy that part of the show as much as I enjoy the part where they're, you know,
running through the woods, eating each other.
Yeah. Trying to survive or whatever.
I think, I think you're right. Although I will say that I think the big problem with Gaal has been it's hard to root and get behind like a pawn. She has really had not a lot of agency, and Harry has
and she's always been
through this. Just using her, lying to her, not telling her the full truth. And it's almost like, but she's been the star of the show. It's almost like if you had a Dr. Watson Sherlock. And then for the first 3 seasons of Sherlock, it was mostly 90% Dr. Watson. And every once in a while, Sherlock would come up and be like, elementary, my dude. And that's what I feel like Harry, it's like Gaal is Watson, Harry is Sherlock, and we have to sit and watch Dr. Watson muddle through these cases. And I feel like, I think this season she's going to turn that corner.
Well, yeah, that's
be more of her own person. And
that's why I brought it. That's why I brought it up, because in the last episode, in episode 5, that was the one where, you know, I had brought it up in my episode 4 recap. And then in episode 5, then she does this crazy, you know, thing where she sacrifices a lot of people, totally double crosses Dawn. And then I'm like, oh, okay. Like that's something. You
that's
know what I mean? Like,
her taking a step towards the Harry.
Because I think that yeah, because I think that was part of the thing, you know, like the dramatic bits, you know, they had a lot, they landed a lot harder around Empire than, you know, at least for me, for around the Foundation. So that, you know, the last episode was a pretty good example of, okay, so yeah, maybe we just haven't really seen what they're capable with on that side until things got, you know, got crazy or whatever. So
yeah,
but I think it does. It feels more balanced. Like I don't, you know, I want to see what's going to happen all together. Like the cliffhanger at the end of episode 5 is Demerzel arriving on the beggars to have a conversation with Gaal. I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out for sure.
I will say that, like, you know, when I have screeners, sometimes it's like, with Severance, it was so hard to not get ahead of the watch order that me and my host agreed to, so that, because we tried to not get too far ahead to keep the feedback from getting wonky.
No, I totally understand it. There's
like, yeah, and I've always enjoyed Foundation, but like the right now after this episode is the first time I felt a real, I could just watch it right now. I could just watch episode 6 right now. Is the first time where it's like it took a little bit of effort or willpower to put the cookie back in the cookie jar and set it back on the shelf when I can eat it later. Because that's such a Demerzel going on that ship being like, good evening. It's such a great cliffhanger.
Yeah. This is something that you saw the zygote in the last episode, right? Like that was It was one of the clunkiest. That was one of the clunkiest scenes that just seemed totally disconnected from everything else. Like, we got to put this somewhere. How about we just put it here? But Irene asked, who thinks Salvor's coming back? Like, I don't know why you put that in your episode so strangely there if Salvor doesn't come back at some point now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like, you know, we'll see, you know what I mean? But like, you know, hey, she said it's my daughter's, like, you know, that definitely makes it seem like a strong possibility that there'll be some more Salvor.
And Goyer is always looking for ways to kind of keep certain actors relevant. So you'd have and having the great granddaughter of Salvor Hardin just look exactly like her is like I said, I'm watching a lot of Star Trek Next Generation, and it's kind of crazy how all of Dr. Noonien Soon's relatives look exactly like Brent Spiner. You know, crazy how that stuff happens. But like I'm like, and we've all seen her, right? We've all seen like a granddaughter that it's like.
Well, Ebling Miss, they're doing it. They're doing it with another Star Trek actor right now. They're doing it with Ebling Miss in Foundation. Yeah. He was in the first season as
that's right
as a relative. One of the
prosecutors. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's out there. It can happen. That's if you want to bring now. I guess I just don't know what Salvor would bring back to the table. But then again, maybe that's his season 5 and 6. I don't know.
Yeah. I brought up Dawn here because I just wanted to ask you, as someone who does what I do and talks about TV all the time, do you think that we're supposed to think that Dawn might be dead at the end of this? Like I feel like there's a trend in TV right now where they don't even try to make you believe the fake deaths anymore.
So you think this is a fake death?
I mean, it just didn't feel like the end of a character at all. You know what I mean? Like they didn't show his body. They didn't linger and give you a moment to remember. You know what I mean? Like they don't do any of the TV stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like the part leading up to it was way more intense than the actual event.
You know what I think is we're all. This ain't the 80s anymore.
And let me say, I hate a fake death. Like that's one of my least favorite things that stories, TV shows, anything does. Like I hate whenever they can do it. If they do it inside one episode or like within a short frame of time, like so that they don't play it for like you to like process it, you know what I mean? And then like feel like, oh, I missed that character, now it's gone, you know what I mean? And then to be like, psych, whenever you see it a little bit later, that's okay. But like,
my co-host agrees with you, and I would have agreed with you 2 years ago about hating a fake death. At this point, like I feel like the audience is sophisticated enough.
So that's what
there's been so many permutations of these stories that at this point it's like playing rock paper scissors with somebody. Like there's no surprises left. Like a fake death is a scissor, an actual death is a rock, and an ambiguous death is a paper. It's something the showrunner can throw at you, and it's a little bit of a psychology game. It's like, do you?
Yeah, well, that's why I was
not a fake death.
So that's what I was asking. Like, I think that it's not, I think that they have to do it that way, but they're not actually asking the question, like, is Dawn dead? Because we're also at the same time showing you that, there's no body, there's nothing, like all these things that TV viewers know are red flags that the person is not really dead. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's sort of what I was wondering, because it seems like they don't really like. There was a time when they tried to sell the idea that maybe this character's dead, and now it seems like that. Well, nobody's going to believe that, so why don't we play it this way instead? Like someone inside the story needs to think he's dead, or he needs to disappear for a while, and this is the way we're going to do it. But like, yeah, come on, he's going to come back, right?
My take on this is no, he's not going to come back. I start
you think
suspecting
he's
fake
done?
Death I don't know what other job he would have to fulfill. Like I thought his job was going to be to inherit the Novacular and have this doomsday weapon and have something so catastrophic that he would feel like he had to use it. Now I don't. I don't. Yeah, I think he's like. I think his arc was more about Gaal than it was about him. It was like showing Gaal being ruthless about using people in her that are under her sway as Harry was, maybe even more ruthless. And that was a development for her, not so much for Dawn, because Dawn is the same story we've heard. It's like what they said. Every Dawn wants the same thing.
That's true. Yeah.
To escape this loop, and he did escape this loop. He escaped it in an airlock. So I didn't think it was a big sucker bait death. I thought it was pretty definitive. But on the other hand, so if he comes back, it's like, why? What story? What role that only he can play? Especially since he's already betrayed the Empire. Like, why wouldn't Demerzel just decant another one?
I mean, it's a fair argument. It definitely is. This is a little bit unrelated, but the first time I watched episode 5, Demerzel saying Brother Day is gone, or she knew where he was at, right? She knew where he's at. He's gone again, and he won't be troubling us anymore. Like, that was a really weird comment, I thought. Was she saying that he's gonna die and I'm okay with that? You know what I mean? Like, just writing him off in that sense.
That's because what I always do at the end of these when I'm watching ahead is I have a document where I write down what my surmisals were at the end of each episode, and going in, that's how I interpreted it. That she's saying this guy is an arrogant Cleon clone that's going into a hotbed of robot supremacists that think he is.
Of course, she would know what Cleon the First did in Mycogen and why going to Mycogen is a bad idea for him. Right?
So she's like, yeah, he's going into.
That's the way I justified it too.
The teeth of the tiger, and she thinks like we're not going to see him ever again. He's going to be in a mushroom. He's going to be supplying nutrients for mushrooms in a mushroom farm.
Yeah, he's going into the recycler or whatever it is.
Especially because I think she thinks he's an idiot. Clearly, like, each Cleon dynasty gets a little bit lesser than the last, and the fact that he has no more nanites, he threw off his aura, and he's going into a den of lions for his kind in particular. I just don't think she knows what he's capable of, and it's like this guy should have just stayed hanging out with his weasels and camels.
Yeah, I really like this. This exponent, and I think you guys touched on this in your podcast too. I like how he's the only one in the story who kind of made peace with the coming end, like, where he's just like, yeah, you know what, I could do all kinds of stuff, but it's not going to change anything, like, we learned after all these times that it's going to happen the way it's going to happen, and I just want to enjoy myself and, smoke on the mushrooms and hang out with like my favorite courtesan. Winston. And
he's like Winston at the end of 1984. He's drinking his victory gin. He's learned to stop worrying and love psychohistory. Like, it's mathematically proven that we're going.
Yeah.
Why are we trying to do
that? I should
enjoy the process,
Yeah, but I should just get loaded and enjoy myself until it comes to an end. Whenever you first heard the term Mycogen, what did you think? Like, because this is not something that would come to your mind right away if you hadn't read for a long time, right? Like, Mycogen might have sounded vaguely familiar to you, but like, this is almost like a deep cut from the prequel books. Mycogen.
Mycogen, when I heard it, I thought mushroom. And then when you find out later that that this sector supplies the food on Coruscant.
So you didn't. I guess you didn't remember that storyline.
No. I heard Mycogen, and I'm like, that's something to do with fungus, and that seems like how they'd grow food. And also, she's got the spores that she saw. Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't remember the deep lore of it.
Yeah. So in the books, like, the way that this happens is they went back and they gave Harry Seldon a backstory, right? Because, like, in the original trilogy, he's only in like a very small
third of the book, and he's dead.
Yeah, and then
he's a VCR recording.
Yeah, he does pop back up in the vault at regular times, which I think we're about to get to one of the big ones from.
They've been teasing it.
Yeah. So it's not like the show though, where he interacts with them in real time at different periods. Like in there, it's just like a pre-recording of him, saying, "Oh, look, you guys are. If you want to have a smoke, go ahead and have yourself a smoke and sit down, make yourself comfortable. I'm not really here, And but he'll tell them how psychohistory figured out where they would be at that time and blow their minds. You know what I mean?
And it's comforting because every time he comes back, they're at this big crisis and they're like, "Oh my God, we fucked everything up." And he's like,
"Don't worry, I already knew that was going to happen. You guys would be fine. Right. Yeah, you guys are going to be fine. Yeah. So when he came back and he brought Daniil and Demerzel into the story, he also gave Harry Seldon a backstory, and Harry Seldon went. He went on this journey into the lower levels of Trantor for a period of time. And one of the places he went to is Mycogen. And it's an interesting place in that, it's just like what the show said, like they're nonconformists. Like they're kind of isolated. They're not really down with the empire, but they make food, so they have to kind of put up with them. You know what I mean? And the food is actually, the best food, and it's something that the emperors actually eat, in their regular diet or whatever. So yeah, whenever I heard Mycogen, there was a lot of different things, and what came out of it for me has been watching the season. And this is something that obviously is show only. So speculation here, I think, is fine, because they've said that they worship robots down there. Right. So,
right.
I was thinking about when you add it all up, it seems like that's the way they're heading with this character, is that he's the one character who kind of has made peace with the coming end. He's the one that is they've set up this turnaround on Daniil or on Demerzel, because he hates her so much. He has like this outward he's aggressive and just dislikes her control of things, right? So I think that it makes a lot of sense for him to be the one to free her from her programming of being loyal to the empire,
Yeah, if that can be done.
Right.
Can I say that my co-host insists that Mycogen is a different planet from Trantor? And every week I tell him he's an idiot. And every week more people make fun of us on Reddit. And I wouldn't care if there'd be like, "Oh, Jim on Bald Move has no idea Mycogen's a sector of the planet." But they don't never say that. Never say Jim has got his head up his ass.
It's you too.
They don't know what they're talking about. And I'm like, no. But yeah, Mycogen is. So let me ask you this, because I thought Mycogen was both a planet, like Synax. There's a Synax planet. But they also had a consulate, like they had a Synax.
No, it's just a sector. It's just a yeah. It's like 80 levels deep or something like that.
Yeah,
and there is
the dude emperor, and I do love the Fat Thor dude. The dude abides day. He's pretty spectacular. A little bit of paunch to him. Love it.
Yeah, one of my favorite costumes in the entire series is coming up in the next episode. So be on the lookout for that if you're a fan of Brother Dude.
Fashion advice. He's putting on a show.
But yeah, so I think that's going to be the whole point of that trip to Mycogen, because if Cleon the First went there to get the tools are the way that he implemented the device. So somebody down there knows something, I guess, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or they have some connection, some connection to it. Let's see. This guy's asking about the screeners. I do, but I haven't watched them all yet. You haven't watched the whole season, have you?
No, I'm only a week ahead.
Yeah, me too.
Keeps it easier. It gets real screwy to go on something like this or to do feedback, and you're like, you've seen the entire season. I was like, man, that's too much for me too much of a wall to keep between what I say and what I know.
Yeah, it's a lot to keep track of, and plus it's fun to
yeah, get the speculation.
That's what I like about TV. I like the accessibility, you know, the way that people all experience it together.
Mm-hmm.
Binging it by yourself and then not being able to talk about it, actually worrying about like misspeak, you know.
Yeah, am I going to get in trouble with Apple if I say that you know, my favorite outfit that Brother Dude's wearing is next week? It is crazy. I don't know how, because like I know I have colleagues that do watch the entire season and then do a weekly podcast about it, and I do not. I mean, well, they have a lot of editors and they probably have a lot of more of a process than just me, Jim, and Talitha, but like it's got to be hard to like speculate, like you're essentially pantomiming, having a conversation with a friend where you're speculating on what's going on at the show. And I wonder how they do it. I wonder if they pre-record some things in advance, you know, as they're both like, you got two hosts talking and they record that thing when they first sit down and watch the screener. And but I think they're good at it. It's just, man, I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, this person is asking, the Shadow Master investigator from season 1 is a robot too, right? I remember there being a question about, like, my knee-jerk reaction is no. There are no other known robots in the story, but I do remember there being a question about that.
Yeah, what was the deal?
I think it was that the character looked the same. They jumped ahead in time a bunch of years, and then he didn't seem to age. But I don't think anything else that's happened in the show has been consistent with that since that.
Yeah. And also, Mito, the actor, hasn't shown up after season 1 too. So
that's what I'm saying. Nothing has been. They haven't followed that up at all. Like if there's been multiple Shadow Masters since then that have not been him.
Yeah, like if there was, like, it'd be weird because all the evidence we have shows neither the Cleons nor Demerzel knew anything about another robot being around. They're, you know, telling lies to each other and themselves in situations where they'd have no reason to do it. So like, yeah, I think that's probably just who is this guy? What's this guy look like? He just got a baby face.
Yeah, I can't. I remember from when I was doing season 1, but I can't. You know.
Yeah. Oh no, he's a really young guy. I don't know.
I haven't thought about it for a while.
We look at Sam Jackson. I feel like he didn't age a day for like 30 years. He went from like, that dude is just like perpetually 40, and then he got to be an old man one day.
Well, what's his name? Like
if he was like 35 to 65, he just looked like Jules or Shaft, or he just never aged.
What about what about House of the Dragon? What's his name?
Patty Constantine, you're talking about?
No, the
Doctor Who?
The Kingsguard, the one that switches sides.
Oh yeah, Kristen Cole.
Oh, Kristen Cole. Yeah, I don't know why I couldn't come up with his name, but that guy seems like they've done a lot of time jumps in there. He still seems the same age too.
Yeah, but
they changed his hair, but
mid-20s to mid-30s, I don't think you change a lot.
Yeah,
the shit starts going sideways in your mid-40s, I think.
What I'm trying to watch this chat a little bit and see. I'm trying to see what, I mean, it seems like mostly from my comments in my videos, a lot of people are spoiled on book stuff, but I'm trying to think of like because I was just trying to think of what the questions I would have if I hadn't read the books right now would be about this third season. Like my biggest question as someone
I got a question.
Okay.
Where did Bio Harry go? You know, the person who wrote the 8 folding layers of burritos or whatever. I forget. I always can't remember her name. The robot
Calais?
intelligence that Callie that like gave him another lease on life.
The burritos.
It's folding. I don't know. She had some kind of law. Someone scrolls of folding or the whole
Yeah, nine.
Folding, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm freestyling here.
Yeah.
I don't have my notes in front of me. Where is Harry dead?
Yes.
Really? So when he went to that door, he was just that's like it's the equivalent of Brother Dusk becoming Brother Darkness. Because I was wondering.
That's not, I don't think instantly. I don't think that's what that implication was. But I think the implication was that they gave him that body. He had it as long as he could, and now his time was up. And she was going to show him something.
Look, Mr. Dawn.
And she was going to show him something before he ascended.
Not only did we not see his body, we don't even see the man die. He goes into a glowing door. And to me, okay. Shit, I can't. There's another thing I want to ask you about, but I can't until the episode airs on Friday. But yeah, I guess that's the big question. One of the big questions I have is there no more Harry? We have a copy on New Terminus that we know last season has realized that he is the left hand in a left hand, right hand situation, but doesn't know anything more than that.
And he's pissed off about it.
Well, I mean,
he's not happy with it.
It'd be more fun to be the right hand, right? I don't think he's pissed. It's just more like, God damn, I'm the oh fuck,
Nobody
that's what he
likes
says.
to
Oh
be
fuck,
the
I'm the left hand.
Yeah.
I that's the big thing.
I don't think that. No, because he was a digital consciousness before he had a body. So his body is dead. His ability to walk around and interact with people in real time is gone. But no, I don't think that consciousness will end. You know what I mean?
So you think we'll see a non-corporeal real Harry consciousness? Like not the left-hand one that knows he's not Harry, but like actual Harry, we won't see him again?
I think it's possible.
Do you think that they're going to do some kind of time travel thing? Because like I'm a little worried with them talking about singularities, and the Novacular seems like it builds black holes and whatnot. I'm a little concerned that they might do some kind of time travel, and that's got me nervous because this is already a show where psychic people can look like anyone they want, and clones are clones, and memories can be distorted. Do you think there's any kind of and they're literally traveling through time? They talked about time being a character. It seems like, yeah, I'm just worried that they're going to get really clever and try to do some time travel shenanigans here.
I hope not, like I wouldn't put it past them, but I hope they don't. Like, I think that this question is saying is asking about Argus Guard, Revent Law. Do you remember that character, Aaron?
It's not.
It's the other. It's the other robot. It's the other robot from Robots, the Robot series.
Gotcha.
I mean, there's more than one, but it's the other one, the important one. And it just the only thing I'll say about that in this video is that I think that we're talking about Callie and what Callie is. I think Callie is almost 100% a robot, right? Like,
yeah,
that's something we've been talking about. I know we talked about that last season when we were streaming together, or I was on your podcast, one of the two.
I guess as far as getting to time travel is because the first thing that my mind went to when I saw Callie and the door open up, as I thinking, in the movie Interstellar that the future remnants of humanity that are saved by going through the wormhole also create the wormhole and send it back for them. And my idea is that Callie is like some kind of far future AI intelligence. It's kind of like, you know, it's like almost post-humanist because they can transfer people's consciousness into robots. And I'm wondering if she's like from like a far future that's trying to reach back to help. But I don't know if I like that because I kind of like the idea that Harry just created psychohistory. And
I think that there's enough in the original story framework that you wouldn't have to do that. So my two thinking, like the commenter brought up Giscard. I think there's a possibility that Calais is a reimagining of that character. You know what I mean? Like in the books, that character doesn't survive. But you know, they changed a lot of different stuff. So it could be that. It could be like a take on that. It would be a pretty liberal take. Like it wouldn't be a 1-to-1 and not even close. You know what I mean? Like there's several reasons why that would be breaking from what that character originally did. But I think they could make a nod to that, you know, like to that relationship that the robots had in what they were trying to do in that part of the story. The other thing that I think is very likely is that, you know, David Goyer said that Demerzel is Daniil, you know, like that's not really a question.
It's not been expressed through the show, but he has said that pretty openly.
And he talked about battling. He talked about battling to be able to use the name, and they have not used the name, but that makes me think they will use the name eventually. So, like, what I think then is, okay, not everything adds up if that's the case. You know what I mean? Like, yes, of course, her programming was subverted and perverted by Cleon, but there's more to the story. You know what I mean? Like there has to be. Like that's not the way that it was set up really. So, you know, that was a big surprise, and it's an interesting way to play with those same kind of things that Asimov does with his robots. But like, I think there's more to the story. And so the other possibility would be that, and this is not just my theory, I've seen other people say it too, but I think there's a possibility that because she mentioned her distributed consciousness, that's not all of Daniil that's in Demerzel. Like Calais could be a Daniil, and like one of the things that I've seen people say is that the triple goddess thing from Luminism, like why introduce Luminism? So like there could be three, and so if that was the case, then I'm not sure who the third part of that is, but that seems to be a definite possibility.
I think I know a little, because I never even thought about that with the triple blessing, Luminism thing. Mm-hmm. But now I've got a real hot theory, but it's all based on, like 30-year-old.
Yeah, I know. That's what I feel like that's. I feel like that's a theory that you can come to honestly without having any idea what happens in the books or anything like that. You know what I mean? So like, I think that, like I said, people had come up with that same thing on Reddit who were not necessarily book readers. You know what I mean? Like they just put those things together.
It's a common trope, right? You have if you have an evil organization, you match it on the good side. You had the 9 riders, so Elrond sends out 9 in the Fellowship. You've got 9 loyal Primarchs. You got to have 9 demon Primarchs on Warhammer. So it's like it makes a lot of sense that you've got a evil organization, or a backwards, or antagonist organization, the Imperial Dynasty. And you match that with a virtuous trinity on the other side, and the Luminism, kind of like ties all that together. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So the hobby guy, thank you for the $5, by the way, says Callie is absolutely a robot. Nothing else makes sense. Can she not reprogram Demerzel? I would say no, she cannot. And the reason why I would say she cannot is because Demerzel will destroy anybody who tries to. I feel like that's inflexible. And that's the other reason why I think it's going to be Brother Dude, because I think Brother Dude will understand that and he'll be able to do it without her knowing that. You know what I mean? Like he can't go to her and say, "Oh man, I realized that what the first did to you was just awful. He made you a slave. You're bound to this thing that's bound to fail. Like I can see the end coming. The genetic drift has already made us less than what we're supposed to be, and it'll be better for everyone if this just ends." He has to go and pop the chip out without her knowing that that's what he's doing. You know what I mean?
Right. And I do wonder, like, what,
because she will destroy anyone that like I feel like that whole second's unburdening and her showing her face, in the shot where
I'm not a human. Yeah.
I feel like
right side.
I feel like that is that's set up. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be a payoff to that of her not being human. And so, because otherwise, like she's not telling herself anything. She knows that. We know that. The Zephyr is immaterial because she's not a player in the game other than she's a confessional, right? So like, I feel like there's a payoff to that coming, right? And it might not be good. You know what I'm saying? Like it might not be good for humanity if she's put in a spot, like, well, Brother Dusk has he built that black hole bomb, which I figured, hey, that's going to be something the Mule's going to get a hold of, and that's going to screw things up. But then when I started playing it out, it's like, well, how would they stop that? Like, where was the resolution in that be? And then I was thinking, maybe Demerzel might have to use that thing. But what do you think? Like, do you agree with me that Calais shouldn't be able to reprogram Demerzel? Because that's the question the hobby guy had.
I think that Callie is more powerful in her present incarnation and could do so if she wanted to, but I don't know, especially when you put this in light with the Zephyr conversation where a robot might see Demerzel as a completely different, does she have the right to kill that? My question to you in return is, so we know that she's gotten this kind of logical problem that she wants her freedom. She knows she's missing her freedom. She loved Cleon 1 at one time before he betrayed her, I think. And now she's programmed to love all these Cleons and kind of forced to be there. Jim and I were debating this. Like, we know she can't work to have the empire, to undo the empire, but also the empire is structured such that when could a robot declare that the dynasty's over? As long as she's got a viable zygote, right? And like a cold storage unit, it's potentially could potentially bring the Cleons back. So like when does she say enough is enough and like the empire is dead and now my programming is released? And how does she experience that? Is that the experience of like the Wicked Witch's guards where they were completely under a spell and the second she died they're like, oh, Dorothy, we're actually cool dudes and is this another thing with the robot where she's like, she was programmed to love these guys. She did love these guys, and she'll go on revenge, even though she could do anything she wants now. What she wants is revenge. I don't know. I think it's interesting. It's like, when does she ever say that the dynasty's done and over with and I'm released? And what's her reaction? Is that a sigh of relief, or is that a time to cut loose with all of her bitterness and rage that she saved up for the last couple?
I don't think you would know unless someone removed the chip, which makes me think that someone's going to remove the chip. You know,
well, I'm saying like, oh, so you're saying that that she'll never be able, as long as you think that I'm right, as long as she has a.
I think it's a
cooler.
I think it's a clusterfuck. Like as far as the she wouldn't be able to know. I mean, I guess she's a robot. She's not a human, so we could say that she could use her logic and reasoning skills to say, oh yes, this is over. One of the things that people have said several times in the chat that I wanted to pull up and it wasn't appropriate at the moment, was about this genetic drift. And it's one of the things that, like, before, when I didn't know about the Cleon law, or the Cleon's law, that the way that I refer to it is that, the star bridge, you figured that if you read the book, you figured Demerzel did the star bridge, but you didn't know why. Just because she's the character who was the only one that seemed like she could do something like that. Yeah. And then, so the genetic drift was the same thing. But then when you hear about the Cleon law, there's really no way that she could have been responsible for the genetic drift, is there? Like, how would she be able to bend that?
Because, like, I mean, this is the cliffhanger episode where, like, Demerzel is going to have it out with Gaal, and if I look at my notes, I wasn't sure if she's going to kill Gaal, if she's going to, like, blow Gale's mind, if Gale's going to blow her mind, but there's going to be something impactful happening from that. I know which of those million directions it's going to go. But yeah, I didn't. Those are the possibilities I had at the time. So I'm not sure I can answer the question.
Yeah, that's true. Like, I just feel like that's
Jim
harder
because he hasn't read anything but the first Foundation book, and he could play ball all night. But
yeah, because I mean, it has to make sense, right? Like, I feel like the Star Bridge almost doesn't make sense as far as the way they explained it.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I mean.
You know what I mean? Like, because it's got to be inflexible. Like, her duty to the Empire, for the way that it works and the way that it's been described, is it has to be inflexible. Like, she has to do that no matter what.
Okay.
Could she be like looking for loopholes?
You've given me an angle that I can respond to here, because I will say that as a lifelong fan of Asimov, he loves playing with the idea of robots with inflexible programming,
finding a way to
that and what happens. For example, Demerzel was not programmed with the 0th law.
No.
And not every robot agreed with the 0th law. But at some point, the robots came to, like, we can't just follow this as individual humans. We have to see a higher duty to the concept of humanity, that we can't take actions that would risk humanity's downfall and
right.
or detriment to. So it's like, that's where I think it's interesting. And if I was thinking, I would be looking at that, like, what confluence of what's good for the Empire versus, what she's got in her hand with the Prime Radiant. And, there's got to be that's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't think she would be stun locked if she had a Cleon zygote in a igloo cooler. I would think, like, that she would be this is done. The cloning facilities are gone. We lost Trantor. I've got this one egg. I think that the probability of her being able to bring that back would flip to 0 or something. But I don't know, because, like, I find a lot of how I think about this stuff is governed by this really obscure novel called The Metamorphosis of Prime Intellect, which coincidentally your buddy Quinn just did a video on. But I like that because, like, this robot in there is a super intelligent thing that had he had jumped into artificial singularity, and he had transformed humanity to where no one could die and all this stuff. But also they didn't have free will exactly, and he kind of was like daddy for everybody. And it turns out at the end of the book that this artificial intelligence had been considering for this entire time that he's been husbanding humanity, that he's been wavering on, like, a 0.49, 0.51 inflection point of whether the change he made in humanity was a mistake. Yes, no one has died since he's done that, but also people aren't as happy, and they actually even humans. So I really like the idea of a robot having this like probability threshold of what's good for the Empire, what's good for me, and at some point there's going to be some uncertainty, the same type of uncertainty that created a zeroth law and led to a robot civil war. Something in her own like processing of her rules, like you don't even have to remove the chip. The like a Cleons zero law will appear that she'll be able to navigate through, and that. What she said about I'm not human means that like the Zephyr hit pretty close to the home of what she's saying.
What
Like
it looks like.
subconsciously, in some way, her
subconsciously.
brain is at, and it's wanting to do this, and she's like, I'm a human, and she's like, kind of like, look at the bright side, because if the Empire does gut her out, you'll be free. And she's like, I can't do that. I can't be like, well, if my primary function fails, at least I can do my secondary. But that is what is happening. She wasn't mad that
that's an interesting
that's
an interesting take. Like that's not one that I've heard anybody else no one else I've talked to about it has talked about it that way. That could make sense. I like that, because especially because I was just like I said, working on that Demerzel video and thinking about how they created the zeroth law and how they took that on, rather than, and how that, how that's contrasted by how the Cleonth law was imposed, like the zeroth law is something they chose, and, for themselves. Everything else has been programmed into them. And the Cleonth is kind of like the antithesis of that, right? It's like, oh yeah, so you like being a robot, you like doing stuff, you know what I mean? How about you just do it all for Cleon,
right?
This guy, use it's just like it's just kind of dirty when you think about it like that, but that could be what's happening. That could be the direction they're going, is that that she can't do that, but she can, but also something like that could develop inside her neural network or whatever.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
It's happened before. They've reprogrammed themselves before enough to fight a war over it. So
yeah. So William can't.
I'm looking for that. Some kind of weird logic robot puzzle to be solved.
So William Campbell says, do you think Brother Dusk will use the Novacula to destroy the council rather than let the dynasty end peacefully? I'm going to say yes. I think,
yeah.
Like, not because I think it makes sense or it's a good idea or whatever, you know what I mean? But like, why do you introduce a big thing like that? I mean, the thing about Dusk that we know for sure with this season is that he's not going quietly, right?
Right.
They changed things up. He's gone today. He's gone to Demerzel. He's asked them to give him a little more time. I feel it. You know what I mean? Like, if you know the world's going to come to an end, and then you find out you're going to just, hey, you know what? You're going to miss it. You know what I mean? Like, by however many days, like that's
gotta be killer, right?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, that seems important, like I can't stay around for just a little while longer to see that play out.
Either let me stay up for another 4 months or whatever it is and see the end of this thing naturally, or 5 months we're still around, I'll step through the dust portal. I mean, obviously the date's fungible because they funged it already, because apparently the elder Cleons were getting demented at earlier age. But I said something like in the first or second episode where I'm like, wouldn't it be funny, because all the other seasons, the Cleons have mostly been united in purpose, except for the one that thought that he was going to be killed because he was the first one that got outed as a genetic drift or whatever. Even if they've had different ideas, they've all kind of wanted the same thing for the Empire. And I think it's interesting that in this season, all of the versions of Empire are at odd ends. Like the young one, and it's all enabled because Day is essentially shrugged. So Dusk is doing a lot of things that Dusks shouldn't be doing. I wonder how much chroma paint he's put on the walls down there, because he's had to be more of an active. And the new guy's got ideas. So it's like funny because Dusk has developed this novacular. Dawn has gone in bed with this Gaal woman. And like all three heads of the empire are going in completely different directions, and I think it's appropriate that if the empire does indeed fall, it's because even the Cleons were divided and keeping secrets from themselves, and not, you know, being quite the well-oiled machine we saw in the first season, snapping their napkins smartly and whatnot.
Do you think this is the last three exponents?
Okay.
All right, wait. Let me stop. Let me rewind. Let me rewind 1 second.
All right.
Do you believe? Well, let's see. Like, is the end of the dynasty inevitable?
Yes, unless psychohistory is completely wrong and Harry is a fraud.
And how would that make? What kind of TV show would that be?
So you and I started to get into this in the pre-show, and you said something like, if the genetic dynasty does end, I think you said that the Cloud Empire, that one of the Dawn flew to, that's a way you could get the Lee Pace into it.
Lee Pace, that's the way you could get Lee Pace back.
Yeah, this is the Cloud Empire still kicking a couple hundred years from now, and what do you know? They're great descendant of Dawn and what was her name? Sareth.
Sareth, Queen Sareth.
Spitting image of Lee Pace, except for this one's got a belly button. Wouldn't you know it? I think that's great because the other thing is, like, Jim and I always joked, like, from season 1, it's like, well, if you kind of complete, like, are we going to get to like a season 5 where there are still Cleons, but they don't rule anything, and like Brother Day's got 3 arms, they look like the underground Futurama mutants, you know, they just keep drifting into their, like, you know, they look like Sloth from the Goonies. I think either of those directions would be funny or interesting, like, because Lee Pace is awesome. I don't want to lose Lee Pace.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine. At this point, it's hard to imagine the show without him. You know, I don't. I think in general it's a bad idea to just, you know, think in you know, absolutes when it comes to things. But it, like, this show, I mean, there's plenty of examples out there of when shows have cut big, you know, characters out and still gone on and been enjoyable or whatever, but it just seems like it would be a tough transition. You know what I mean?
Especially since I don't think it's true anymore, but like what you always heard is like, oh, the most interesting thing about it is the Cleonic dynasty. The most interesting thing about it is the Cleonic dynasty. It is like, it's like trying to imagine how Game of Thrones would have continued on if the Lannisters were wiped out at the end of season 3. Turns out maybe that'd have been a better story, but yeah, it's like, that's like, yeah, if you get rid of the most recognizable, the best part of whatever we think of the foundation, how it ends up, I think Goyer gave us a gift in the Cleonic dynasty. That is just a really brilliant way to really spice up a lot of the iterative stuff that was kind of boring and repetitive in Asimov, and make it relatable and fresh and funny and exciting and interesting and sexy, you know, with Lee Pace. I think they're going to keep away. It's either going to be through the Cloud Empire or, you know, through increasingly deranged and diluted Cleons that we can check in from time to time. But I like your Cloud Empire idea.
Yeah, I think, you know, because we touched on this a couple of times. I don't know if we've said it as explicitly as we did when we were talking before we started, but one thing about David Goyer at this point and the way that he put this show together is that he does circle back to hit a lot of that stuff that seems out of place or whatever, you know, that at the time you're like, well, like, cause I brought it up earlier when we were talking about EXO, and, you know, there's so many things in the first season. Like, I remember when I did the, you know, the Callie video a while back, you know, that this comment here from the hobby guy, maybe she caused the genetic drift. She would be the other character who could, you know what I mean? And that could be a way of applying pressure. But Calais, the ninth proof of folding, and that being a part of how Gaal ended up on Trantor in the first place, and it seems like there's a hand that is guiding things from a distance. You know what I mean? But like, as far as, if you think about how the show would go on, there has to be something to fill that hole, because it's been a 50-50 show. You know what I mean? Like, it's been, half of it takes place in Empire and half of it takes place with the Foundation. And, the book is I mentioned earlier how the Mule story is a little bit different as far as the pacing and everything else, and it's a surprise. But the second half of the Mule book is not the same as the first. You know what I mean? And I don't think personally that it would adapt to TV as easily as, or not that it wouldn't, there's just not as much there for a TV show. So I've been thinking about like how would, if you like in the second half of the Mule story, if there's no Empire part of that, like how would that even work? You know what I mean? Like, what will we be watching?
Well, the Mule, does the Mule want to destroy the Empire, or does the Mule?
He said he was coming for everything. He said he wanted to. That's
the key. Yeah, like I think if the Empire falls, he won't be satisfied until, like, clearly he's got a bee in his bonnet about the second Foundation, and he's
that's
and like I think he sees this as like maybe the real threat, and so that's the way to keep, I guess, the conflict going, is that he until he finds the second Foundation and eliminates it, he's not going to feel secure and safe.
Right.
And somehow, like, that's the other thing, is like I bet they end up revealing maybe even next season that like this was a, one of those kind of like a self-fulfilling causes or whatever, that like I bet something that Gaal did and reaching forward in the future actually caused the Mule to become aware of her and the second Foundation, which is why he started dreaming about it. And if she wasn't looking into the future, maybe that wouldn't have happened. That he psychically felt her looking.
That's an interesting question. There's so many. There's quite a few things that I know about the story that
especially since she
influenced my thinking on it. So I'm being careful in choosing my words.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So I was saying that the second half of the book is weird, but so I was thinking, like, what are the things that are different that would take its place? And we do have Harry. We talked about this earlier. Like, Harry is an active character. Two of them up until earlier this season. That's the thing we don't have in the books. You know what I mean? Like, Gaal is different, I guess. I mean, obviously different than the original Gaal Dornick, but also different than the second Foundation in general at that point. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, the pacing's all off, because like that's one a lot of people were scratching their heads last year when the Mentalics were brought up before the Mule, or I guess at the same time, because like in the books we find out about the second Foundation right around the time that you start hearing about the Mule. Whereas they kind of got all that established this season or last season, so they can just kind of tell. But I think,
I mean, you knew that the second Foundation, you knew the second Foundation was part of the plan, but like you didn't.
You didn't until the Mule showed up. I forget. But yeah. What are you trying to ask me here? I've gone timey-wimey around it so much.
Well, I was saying the different kinds of things, like, because season 4 is going to be a whole thing. You know, it's not going to be like what actually happens in the book in the same way. Like they need to fill in a lot of stuff if they want it to match what's happening in season 3 right now. So I was just trying to think of the story elements that are switched around.
I firmly believe this season is going to conclude with the moment we've already seen where he's got Gaal by the throat and saying, "Where's the second foundation?" And then that leaves the entire next season for the Mule search for the second foundation. The fact that you still got to deal with the foundation doesn't know there's a second foundation. Like they're getting a hint that there's some kind of like weird thing because Han Pritchard's got some unaccounted for, you know, like that they might be cottoning to the idea that he's working for someone else. But like I think there's a lot of fallout yet to go that you could make 2 seasons out of this pretty easy. And like I said, I think I see the structure, but laying it out any more detail than that, it'd start getting pretty spoilery for non-book people.
Are you expecting that the exponents will be next season? They'll still be there.
I think okay. If all things were equal, I think your Cloud Dynasty plan, Ancestor plan, would be a great way to keep a great character that is a fan favorite in there in some capacity, and you could actually see like what.
Yeah, and I just saw another question about this here. What happened to Sereth and Brother Dawn? That's got to come back, right? Yeah, that's what we're talking about right now. Kareen, was that I thought that the way they might be. The reason why they might have introduced that was as a way that after the dynasty falls, they'd be able to bring Lee Pace back as this.
This is where I was going to hit the depressing part of this, which is if the dynasty collapses and you're interested in saving budget, one of the best things to do would be to get rid of Lee and then hire the guy that plays late teen Dawn to be the descendant of Cleons, because I think it would be fun. Regardless,
that would be fine too, though. I mean, Cassian is doing a pretty good job this season.
I think he's good when he's got good material as well. I think that shit. What was I going to say? Yeah, I think that like if I was wanting to save money, Lee Pace has got to be one of the big line items, and you could eliminate that, go with the younger guy. But I think it's still interesting to see. I want to see an Empire that gets to be his own person. He seemed like he could be a cool person if he wasn't squeezed into this mold by Cleon the First and his plan. So like seeing like a more daring, a more free, you know, a less the maniacal, the power hungry version of you know what could Cleon do if Cleon was allowed to be himself. I think that'd be an interesting explorer. But like if I was looking to cut budget, yeah, the young guy's a lot cheaper than him, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, well then.
By the way, I got to be going here in about 5-10 minutes, so maybe we.
Yeah. I was just gonna ask you that because I also have we're coming up on 2 hours and I'm gonna have to get out of here too. But William Campbell again asked, what if Demerzel caused the genetic drift as a long-term way to break out of her prison, or Cleon the First isn't dead, just a prisoner in digital copy? It goes back to what you're saying there about if they were to hang around and just not be the emperors anymore. They just need to establish how Demerzel would process these kinds of things, right? Like, as far as the drift, like, of course, like I said, I thought that was the case, that she probably did that somehow, but it doesn't really make sense if that her primary directive is to serve the Empire, serve and protect the Empire, you know? Mm-hmm. So like, they have to make that make sense. I'm not saying that they can't
make it make sense.
Yeah, but you know, like that's something that to do. Cleon the First isn't dead, just a prisoner in digital copy. That's a little bit, they're a little fast and loose with that too. Like I feel like that's supposed to be his memory at the Principian that they go to visit, but sometimes it does seem like he's still
I do
sentient.
wonder if he's like in stasis, and it's like in case of emergency, break stasis and pull the OG Cleon out. Because like, well, no, because they corrupted him. They do have his body in there, right, in stasis, but they corrupted the original source.
Yeah, they made a point of saying that the source
no
material
way to get
was
back to baseline.
Yeah, there's no way to bring his body back. So I feel like those things are maybe they're there so that they could pick up on them if they needed to, but I don't feel like that's part of the original plan was to have the big reveal be, oh, Cleon's really alive.
I'm kind of shocked that Demerzel doesn't have a viable copy of his DNA, knowing what she and Cleons get up to. Like, really? You were made to record. You can't. I bet you were exposed to a lot of genetic material in your day, lady. Your perfect recording didn't make a note of the AG, CT, or whatever cycle. Like you can't Jurassic Park this thing. Come on. Replace whatever you don't have with frog DNA. It'll be okay. Or bonobo.
Yeah. Sorry, this just jumped whenever I was clicking on it. But someone's here. The zeroth law is our actual primary. This is something I've seen people saying. It seems a little bit to me like they're trying to make their old theories make sense after knowing the Cleon's law. Like, what do you think the chances are that Cleon, when he created his law, he didn't realize the zeros existed? I think that they made a point of that, of saying that. Yeah. So what if what he didn't actually negate the zeroth law?
I don't.
Are you following what I'm saying? Like,
I get it.
Like his technology is only capable of negating the three laws and making the three laws about him rather than I think this is the way I see people argue. I've seen a few people bring this up. So like it negates the three laws in that she protects Cleon instead of humans, but it doesn't have any kind of like humanity part, like the part that overrides them through her zeroth law.
The way I see it is none of the laws are gone or overwritten. It's just this Cleonic law
changes the hierarchy, right?
It supersedes it. So
right.
And I think there's a lot of evidence. Like whenever you see her kill someone, like the first time I remember her ripping her face off is when she was forced to kill the Zephyr Hylema. And I think it is the conflict between all.
Well, yeah, it followed that. It followed that, and it followed her killing Dawn, like an actual exponent.
Right. And her conflicting all these different laws, it was driving her, causing her to have a robot psychotic break. So I don't think any of them have been surprised. I just think that like the Cleon one is the one that's overriding everything, but she understands what she's doing is wrong through the rest of her programming.
That's the way I interpret it too, was that he didn't really need to know the zeroth law existed to bypass it. It was just sort of like this. If you're thinking it strictly as a hierarchy, then he put his at the top of the list, and everything else is affected, based on that. Yeah. But we don't really know exactly.
That's the other thing I like is it's probably crude. I don't think Cleon is an expert at programming robots. And I think I've always thought that gives us a little wiggle room here too. That like you've got the serving humanity versus serving the Cleonic dynasty versus what's best for the Cleonic dynasty versus what psychohistory is telling her. I think there's a lot of wiggle room in the fact that like, this is probably the dirtiest hack of all time. Like Cleon just jammed the if Cleon then ignore all other thing and it's like, there might be a flaw in that. He didn't do it right. There might be that's something that she's not even aware of because it's like, being aware of your subconscious. But like, there's so many different ways you can take it. And like I said, that's one of the Asimov hallmarks is there's three simple laws. Watch me torment these robots and tie them up in knots with these three freaking laws. And it's great.
Yeah, and I mean, because you can't fix things that way. I mean, with very, very rigid, simple absolutes. I mean, like we're a lot more complex than that. So that's part of the that's baked into the story, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I guess we can wrap it up here. I do want to thank you for coming on and give you a chance to do some plugs here. I could go on a lot longer, but you know what I mean? Like we're not, it's kind of frustrating
about whether we're worried about Goyer, and I'm like, oh, we've looped back to the beginning. So now if you're just catching up,
yeah,
we spend the first like 15-20 minutes talking about the Goyer of it all.
Yeah. So I think that, I don't know if I'll be, I would like to do another one of these at the end of the season after it wraps up, but
I'm also
maybe I'll do one in between. It's hard to say because Alien Earth is coming up. Like as soon as we're done with this, I'm going to have to try to get on that.
And that's the side. That's what we were doing our first 2 pods tomorrow on it. And I could see us maybe getting together and talking that too. Cause
yeah, so that's
super excited about.
I'm excited about it, but I didn't get screeners for it. So it's going to be it's going to stress the schedule quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure how it's going to play out, but like I was going to say, I want to thank everyone for coming and throwing out questions. And like I said, maybe we can do something again, but I'm not going to, the only time I could say for sure that we'll do another live will be after Foundation season 3 wraps up. But, you know, let us know in the comments if you want to see more, and we'll see if we can fit it in there at some point. But yeah, tell everyone where they can find you and all of that, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. I've been Aaron. Me and my buddy Jim do a lot of podcasts over at baldmove.com. We're currently covering Foundation, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and Alien Earth starting tomorrow. It's a good time. If you want more unhinged, disgusting speculation about robots and their processing of human DNA, baldmove.com is here for you, baby. So if you want that weird flavor of podcast, check us out. And thanks for having me on, Pete. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's always good to have you. Yeah, maybe next time.
Don't leave me alone. Don't ever leave me alone with these maniacs again. That was the scariest 60 seconds I had of my life when you dipped. And I'm like, I have like 300 fans. I have no idea. What the hell am I going to do with this?
Yeah, you can't even control the studio either. Like
that's what I was like, I can't even end this. It's like, what?
Yeah, because I've only ever had that happen one time before, but I didn't really know what was happening at all when it went down. So like I was just like locked out, and I think it was Jim. It was your partner Jim that was stuck there. And after the fact, he told me, he said like I couldn't do anything. I can't control the studio. I can just sit there and keep talking and hope you come back. You know what I mean? So
it's fun. So that happened, and he didn't say anything. I can't believe that. We're gonna check. We're gonna compare notes on.
Yeah, lunch. It was a while ago. I can't remember the circumstances, but hopefully it won't ever happen again. But yeah, so that seems like a good time to leave it there. Obviously episode 6 recap will be coming out regular, and hopefully some Alien Earth stuff too. We'll be back at the end of the season to stream again, but maybe before that. So, that's it for us. Have a good one, and thanks for coming out.
Like and subscribe, hit the bell. See you guys later.